I was standing before the judge, mid-argument, when the courtroom doors swung open. Two uniformed officers walked straight down the center aisle. Every head turned. The judge's gavel froze mid-air. My client, the CEO of a pharmaceutical company whose entire future hung on this trial, went pale beside me. "Counselor Rachel Morrison?" one officer called out. His voice echoed in the suddenly silent courtroom. I felt my throat tighten. "Yes? We have a warrant for your arrest. Please step away from the bench." The words didn't register at first. Around me, the courtroom erupted. Opposing counsel stood up. My associates gasped. Reporters scrambled for their phones. But all I could hear was white noise. This was day 3 of the most important trial of my career. We were winning. The jury was leaning our way. And now? On what charges? I managed to ask, my voice barely steady. The officer approached with handcuffs. "Federal fraud, embezzlement, forgery of legal documents. You need to come with us now." My hands went numb. The leather portfolio I'd been gripping slipped from my fingers and hit the floor with a sharp crack. None of this made sense. I would never. "Your Honor," I started. But Judge Patterson was already banging his gavel. "Court is in recess. Officers, please escort Miss Morrison out through the side entrance." As they led me away, I caught a glimpse of the gallery. And that's when I saw him, Dennis, my stepfather, sitting in the back row, arms crossed, watching me with an expression I'd seen before, the same cold satisfaction he'd worn at my mother's funeral when he learned she'd left everything to me. The pieces started clicking together, but it was too late. The cameras were already flashing. "Let me take you back 6 months. I should have seen this coming. My mother died 2 years ago, pancreatic cancer, brutal and fast. In her final weeks, she'd pulled me aside in the hospice room. Her hand, so thin I could see every bone, gripped mine with surprising strength. "Rachel, honey, I need you to listen carefully," she'd whispered. Dennis had stepped out to get coffee. "Everything goes to you. The house, the investments, all of it. I've made it clear in the will. Mom, don't talk like, listen." Her eyes, still sharp despite the morphine. "Dennis loves me, but he married me for security. When I'm gone, he'll expect to inherit. But that money, it's from your father. From before Dennis. It should be yours. He's been with you for 15 years, I'd protested. "Doesn't he deserve?" "What he deserves and what he'll get are 2 different things. Promise me you'll be careful with him. He doesn't handle rejection well." I promised, though I didn't fully understand. Dennis had always been fine, not warm, but not cruel either. He'd never tried to be my father. I was 19 when he married Mom, but he'd been present. Showed up to my law school graduation. Made small talk at family dinners. The will reading changed everything. I can still see his face when the attorney read the numbers. The house in Westchester, $2.3 million. The investment portfolio, $4.7 million. The life insurance, another $1.5 million. All to me. Dennis got a small trust fund that paid out $3,000 monthly. Enough to live on, but nothing like the windfall he'd expected. He'd gone very still. Then he'd stood up, looked at me with those cold eyes, and said, "Your mother promised me we'd be taken care of." "You are," I'd said gently. "The trust fund. I gave her 15 years. His voice was flat, emotionless. "I put my life on hold. And this is what I get? Pocket change while you walk away with millions?" "Dennis, I'm sorry, but this was her decision. We'll see about that." He'd left, didn't attend the funeral reception, didn't return my calls. I told myself he just needed time to grieve, to adjust. I even offered to increase his monthly payments. He never responded. Until 6 months ago, when things started getting weird. First, it was small stuff. My mail went missing. Packages I'd ordered never arrived. Then my car got keyed in the parking garage at work, 3 deep scratches along the driver's side, right through the paint job on my BMW. The security footage mysteriously malfunctioned that night. Then someone filed a complaint with the New York State Bar Association claiming I'd mishandled a client's funds. It was baseless, easily disproved, but it still meant an investigation. Interviews, paperwork. It delayed my promotion review by 3 months. I started to suspect Dennis, but I had no proof. And honestly, part of me felt guilty. Maybe I should have fought Mom's will, split things more evenly. Maybe I owed him that. My best friend Amanda told me I was crazy. "You don't owe him anything," she'd said over wine at her apartment. "Your mom made her choice. He's just bitter. He gave up a lot to be with her. He got 15 years of living in a nice house, traveling, not working. That's not nothing." Amanda topped off my glass. Stop making excuses for him. If he's behind this stuff, you need to protect yourself. I should have listened to her. The breakthrough on the pharmaceutical case came in February. We'd uncovered internal emails that proved our client had acted in good faith, had followed all FDA protocols. The opposing counsel's case was falling apart. My senior partner, Gerald, pulled me aside after a particularly good deposition. If we win this, you're making partner, he'd said. Youngest litigation partner in the firm's history. Your mother would be proud. I'd felt tears prick my eyes. Mom had always supported my career, even when Dad died and left her to raise me alone. Even when I'd worked 100-hour weeks during law school. Even when I'd missed holidays and birthdays because of trials. That night, I did something stupid. I was feeling sentimental and guilty. I called Dennis. He answered on the fourth ring. Rachel? Hi. I wanted to check in. See how you're doing. Silence. Then, why? Because you were important to Mom. And I know things have been difficult. Difficult? He laughed, sharp and bitter. That's one word for it. Dennis, I'm sorry about the will. I really am. But I want you to know that I'm doing well. Really well, actually. I'm about to make partner at my firm. Good for you. And I was thinking, maybe I could increase your trust fund payments. Make things more comfortable. I don't want your charity, Rachel. It's not charity. It's family. We're not family. His voice turned cold. We never were. I was married to your mother. She's gone. There's nothing between us now except what she stole from me. She didn't steal. 15 years? I gave her 15 years, and she cut me out like I was nothing. Like I didn't matter. He paused. But you know what? People who think they're untouchable always fall the hardest. Remember that. He hung up. I stared at my phone, a chill running down my spine. That sounded like a threat. Should I have been worried? Should I have called someone? But who? The police? And say what my stepfather made a vague comment that made me uncomfortable? I told myself I was overreacting. Dennis was just hurt and angry. He'd move on eventually. I was wrong. The trial started in late March. The pharmaceutical case, Morrison v. Tech Health Solutions, representing Tech Health, billion-dollar stakes, national media attention. My entire career trajectory balanced on this one case. Gerald put me in first chair. Your show, he'd said. Prove you deserve that partnership. I'd spent weeks preparing, rehearsed my opening statement 50 times, knew every exhibit, every witness, every potential objection. I was ready. Day one went perfectly. My opening statement had the jury leaning forward, engaged. The judge complimented my preparation. Even opposing counsel, a senior litigator from a white shoe firm, looked worried. Day two, we presented our first witnesses. Expert testimony on FDA regulations, compliance procedures, everything was going according to plan. Day three, that's when the officers walked in. They didn't handcuff me in the courtroom, small mercy, but they escorted me out through the side entrance, past the jury box, past my client's horrified face, past the reporters already typing on their phones. In the hallway, I finally found my voice. This is a mistake. I haven't done anything. You'll have a chance to explain at the station, the older officer said. He wasn't unkind, but he wasn't sympathetic either, just doing his job. Can I at least see the warrant, the charges? He handed me a folded document. My hands shook as I opened it. The words swam before my eyes. Federal fraud, embezzlement of client funds, forgery of court documents, wire fraud. Each charge carried years of prison time. This is insane, I whispered. These are complete fabrications. Take it up with your lawyer, the younger officer said. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was a lawyer, one of the best in the city. And now, I needed one myself. They took me to the federal building in Lower Manhattan. Processing, fingerprints, mugshot. The fluorescent lights were too bright, the room too cold. I was still wearing my court suit, navy blue Armani, pearls, the outfit I'd chosen to project confidence and competence. Now it felt like a costume. Phone call, the processing officer said, sliding a phone across the desk. I called Amanda. She was also an attorney corporate law, different firm. She answered on the first ring. Rachel? Oh my God, I just saw the news. What the hell? It's not real, I said quickly. None of it's real. Someone's framed me. I need help. I need a criminal defense attorney. The best you know. David Chen, she said immediately. He's at Morrison and Associates. No relation to you. Top criminal defense in the city. I'll call him right now. Don't say anything to anyone until he gets there. Amanda, My voice cracked. I think it was Dennis. Silence. Then, your stepfather? He threatened me. A few weeks ago, on the phone, said people who think they're untouchable fall the hardest. And he was in the courtroom today, Amanda. He was watching. That son of a, she cut herself off. Okay, don't say that to anyone else. Not yet. Let's get David there first, then we figure this out. You're going to be okay, I promise. But I wasn't sure I believed her. David Chen arrived 2 hours later. He was younger than I expected, maybe 45, Asian American, sharp gray suit, and sharper eyes. He sat across from me in the interview room and spread out the warrant and charging documents. Walk me through your day, he said. Everything leading up to the arrest. I told him. The trial, the testimony, the officers bursting in. He listened without interrupting, taking notes on a legal pad. And you have no idea where these charges came from? None. I've never embezzled anything. I've never forged documents. My client accounts are clean. I'm meticulous about that. This is all fabricated. Someone went to a lot of trouble, David said, flipping through the papers. These aren't just allegations. There's documentation here. Bank records showing transfers from client accounts to an offshore account in your name. Forged signatures on court filings. Email chains that appear to show you conspiring with someone to defraud your clients. My stomach dropped. That's impossible. I believe you. His eyes were steady. But someone's created a very convincing paper trail. This isn't amateur hour. Whoever did this had resources, technical skills, and a serious grudge. My stepfather, I said. It has to be him. David leaned back. Tell me about that. I explained everything. The will, the inheritance, Dennis's reaction, the strange incidents over the past months, the threatening phone call. When I finished, David was quiet for a long moment. That's motive, he said finally. But we need proof. Did he have access to your accounts? Your computer? Your office? No. I haven't even seen him in 2 years. Not since the funeral I stopped. Wait. He still has a key to my mother's house. I inherited it, but I haven't changed the locks. I've been too busy, and most of my stuff is still at my apartment in the city. The house is just sitting there. Does the house have a home office? Computer equipment? Yes. My mother's old desktop. I haven't cleaned it out yet. And there's a filing cabinet with some of her old papers. My voice trailed off as realization hit. And my old laptop. From law school. I left it there years ago, never picked it up. It probably still has old passwords saved. Access to my law school email account. David's expression hardened. That's our entry point. If he had access to your old accounts, your old devices, he could have gathered enough information to build this frame job. Email addresses, bank account patterns, client lists. But how did he get federal investigators involved? How did he create fake bank records? Money, David said simply. If you hire the right people, hackers, document forgers, you can create almost anything. And you said your stepfather expected a multi-million-dollar inheritance. He might have spent a chunk of his savings on this revenge scheme. But why now? Why wait 2 years? Because you were about to make partner. You said so yourself. Win this case, youngest partner in your firm's history. He wanted to destroy you at your moment of triumph. David closed his notepad. Classic narcissistic revenge. It's not enough to hurt you. He wants to humiliate you publicly. I felt sick. So what do? First, I get you out on bail. Then we start investigating. I'll need to see your mother's house, check for evidence of his access. We'll subpoena his financial records, look for payments to anyone who might have helped him. And we need to find out who filed the initial complaint with the federal investigators. How long will this take? David's expression was grim. Months, maybe longer. Federal cases move slowly, and they'll fight bail given the charges. But Rachel, he met my eyes. We will prove your innocence. I promise you that. The bail hearing was a nightmare. The prosecution argued, I was a flight risk wealthy, no family ties, facing decades in prison. David fought back, citing my spotless record, my standing in the legal community, my roots in New York. The judge set bail at $500,000. I could post it, barely, by liquidating some of my investments. But the conditions were strict. Surrender passport, ankle monitor, can't leave the state, can't contact any clients or witnesses in my pending cases. My career was over. Even if I was eventually cleared, no firm would touch me after this. The trial had been declared a mistrial. My client was furious, threatening to sue for malpractice. Gerald had called to say I was suspended pending the outcome of the criminal case. Everything I'd worked for 10 years of 80-hour weeks. Sacrificed relationships, missed holidays, gone in one morning. Amanda picked me up from the courthouse. She didn't say anything, just pulled me into a hug as the ankle monitor technician finished attaching the device to my leg. "We're gonna fix this," she said fiercely. "I promise. But first, we had to prove it was Dennis." David got a warrant to search my mother's house in Westchester. I rode up with him and Amanda, watching the familiar streets pass by. The house looked the same. White colonial, black shutters. The garden my mother had loved now overgrown. We used my key to enter. Inside, everything was coated in a thin layer of dust. But in the office, my mother's old office, things looked disturbed. The filing cabinet drawer hung slightly open. The desktop computer had been moved. I could see the dust outline on the desk. "Someone's been here," I said. David's investigator, a former FBI agent named Marcus, started dusting for prints. Meanwhile, I booted up the old desktop and my law school laptop. Both had been accessed recently. The login history showed multiple entries over the past 6 months, always late at night, always brief sessions. "He was researching you," David said, looking over my shoulder at the browser history. "Your cases, your clients, your firm's procedures, building a profile." Marcus called from the filing cabinet. "Found something." We crowded around. He held up a folder labeled Rachel, Account Information. Inside were printouts of old bank statements, password reset emails, even a list of security questions and answers in my mother's handwriting, things she'd kept to help me if I ever got locked out of accounts. "Everything he needed," David said quietly. "Your mother was trying to help you, and he used it against you." We found more. Receipts for a storage unit in Dennis's name. Marcus drove over while we waited. He came back with photos on his phone. Computer equipment, expensive stuff, high-end laptops, servers, sophisticated hacking tools, and a burner phone with a single contact saved. JP. "Time to find JP, David said. It took 3 weeks, but Marcus traced the number. The phone belonged to James Pritchard, a former federal investigator who'd been fired 5 years ago for falsifying evidence. He'd gone private, offering special services to wealthy clients. David's team found bank records showing Dennis had paid Pritchard $150,000 over 6 months. In return, Pritchard had created the false documents, set up the offshore accounts, and fed the fabricated evidence to his former colleagues at the federal prosecutor's office. But we needed more than bank records. We needed Pritchard to confess. David set up a sting. "I didn't know the details better that way," he said, but somehow they got Pritchard on tape talking about the setup, bragging about how thorough the frame job had been. "Your stepfather wanted you destroyed," Pritchard said on the recording, talking to an undercover agent he thought was a potential client. "Not just arrested, he wanted your career annihilated, your reputation ruined. Said you stole from him, took what should have been his. Guy was obsessed." That recording changed everything. The federal charges were dropped 4 months after my arrest. The prosecution was forced to admit they'd been fed false evidence by a corrupt former investigator. They offered a formal apology, but the damage was done. My name had been dragged through every legal publication, every news outlet. The mistrial had cost my client millions. My firm made it clear I wasn't welcome back, partnership or not. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt numb. David filed criminal charges against Dennis and Pritchard. Both were arrested Dennis at his apartment, still living off the trust fund my mother had left him. I went to the arraignment, sat in the gallery, and watched as they led him in, wearing an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed. He saw me. Our eyes met. And for the first time since this started, I saw something other than cold calculation in his face. Fear. Good. The trial was faster than mine had been. David wasn't representing me this time, conflict of interest, but the prosecutor kept me updated. Pritchard took a plea deal, agreed to testify against Dennis in exchange for a reduced sentence, 15 years instead of 30. Dennis fought it, claimed he was innocent, that Pritchard had acted alone, that he'd been framed just like me. The jury didn't buy it. The bank records were too clear, the recordings too damning, and Pritchard's testimony detailing every conversation, every instruction, every payment sealed it. Guilty on all counts. Federal fraud, conspiracy, computer crimes, obstruction of justice. The judge sentenced him to 22 years. I was in the courtroom for the sentencing. Dennis stood as the judge read the sentence, his face pale. Then he turned, scanning the gallery until he found me. "This is your fault," he shouted. "Your mother's fault," she promised. The bailiffs grabbed him, but he kept yelling as they dragged him toward the door. You took everything from me. Everything. I gave her 15 years and you—" The door closed, cutting him off. I sat very still, hands folded in my lap. Amanda squeezed my shoulder. "It's over," she whispered. But it wasn't. Not really. Rebuilding took time. Most firms wouldn't touch me, too much baggage, too much negative publicity. But a smaller firm, specializing in civil rights cases, offered me an associate position. The pay was half what I'd made before. The cases less glamorous. But it was honest work. My client from the pharmaceutical case sued for malpractice, but David defended me and we settled for less than expected. The Bar Association cleared me fully, noting I'd been the victim of an elaborate fraud. Slowly, very slowly, my reputation recovered. I sold my mother's house, couldn't bear to keep it, not after everything. The money went into a trust for legal aid organizations helping people who couldn't afford attorneys like David. On what would have been my mother's 65th birthday, I visited her grave. Stood there in the autumn rain, looking at her headstone. "You tried to warn me," I said aloud, "about Dennis, about being careful. I should have listened." The wind rustled through the cemetery trees. "But I also wish you'd told me why you cut him out. What you saw in him that I didn't. Maybe if I'd understood. But that was the thing." I did understand now. Dennis hadn't loved my mother. He'd loved the lifestyle she provided, the security, the money. When that was taken away, there was nothing left but rage. My mother had seen that, had tried to protect me from it. She'd failed, but only because I hadn't protected myself. I wouldn't make that mistake again. 2 years later, I made partner at the civil rights firm. Small celebration, just Amanda and a few colleagues. But it felt real in a way the pharmaceutical case never had. That night, I got a letter. Prison postmark. From Dennis. I almost threw it away. Almost, but curiosity won. Inside, a single page. His handwriting, shaky but legible. "Rachel, I know you won't believe me, but I am sorry. Not for what I did to you. You deserved that, but for failing. Your mother saw something in me I didn't want to admit, that I was weak, that I needed her more than she needed me. When she left everything to you, it proved what I'd always feared, that I wasn't enough, that I never had been. You were always the important one, her real family. I was just there. I wanted you to feel what that was like, to be nothing. But you won anyway. Just like her, strong until the end. I hope that brings you peace." It doesn't bring me any. No signature, just those words. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully, put it back in the envelope, and filed it away. Not for forgiveness. I'd never forgive him for what he'd done, for the months of hell, for nearly destroying everything I'd built. But as a reminder, that strength isn't about what you have or what you inherit. It's about what you do when someone tries to take it all away. And I'd fought back. I'd won. My mother would have been proud,